This is the practice draft for final exam. This is a walkthrough to show you techniques and so you can study them. You can study them and practice what you need to for the final exam. I got my coffee there. Let me see. So we are doing the caddy. And if I can kind of hold this up here. We're doing the caddy and we're going to go down our method of making this drawing, which is your borders, boxes. You're going to erase to clean it up, details, and the dimensions. So don't try to take all this all in at once. That's a really bad way to go about this. It'll likely lead to failure. So take it one step at a time. So the first thing we're going to do is get our borders, and we usually do a 1/2 inch border, meaning we come off this left hand side by a 1/2 inch, we come off this bottom by a 1/2 inch, and we just create that starting position, that beginning for the whole drawing. All right, so I'm going to do that now. Find the full scale on your architectural ruler. That's the only side that we use. The scales on the rest of this are too large for the furniture or the things that we make. My head might get in the way at certain points. I'll try to back out so you can see or not cover things up. So I'm just putting down 1/2 inch lines. And as with everything, this very first step, and I'd say almost every step, but especially these first steps, make sure they're accurate, and if they're not, just erase them. That's fine. It's common to make mistakes in drafting. I need to grab a 45-90 triangle. And now I'm going to draw my line going up the side. So this is my first recording. I hope that you can see that line, these lines that I'm making. I think you can, but okay. You should be used to this technique by now. You should be using your triangle. You shouldn't be taking your T-square and hanging it off the top. That could be inaccurate. It's also good to check the edges of your board to see if they're bent in. So if the board had been dropped or any damage had occurred to it, you may want to swap boards. If they're fine, then they're fine. So we've got this border right here. And that's all I'm starting with. I'm going to bring this back on over. And I'm going to grab me a marker and a little scrap piece of paper. Let me see here. Before I get into this and I start to really draw everything, the way that I like to do it, the way that I find it easier for me, the way that makes it, step by step, I'm not trying to juggle too many things while I'm drafting, is to do a lot of the math in the beginning. So all I'm going to be doing here is this is a 1/2 scale drawing, and I'm going to be scaling all of my dimensions here. These are my final dimensions. This is how big the part actually is. So this says 3 inches here. The part will actually be 3 inches. But when we draw it, it won't fit on this paper. So we're going to scale it down to 1.5 inches, which is half the scale or half the size to draw it, okay? So to make my life easier here, I am going to go down this and let's just pull some dimensions off. And this is what I would suggest to you too, is to kind of make some nice columns right next to each other. And you can have a scrap paper whenever you do yours. So I think I'll go blue and red. It doesn't really matter what color you use, but I'm just kind of going to go down it. And I'm going to go through these dimensions. So I have a 1/4 dimension right here. I've got a 3/8 dimension right here. There's a 3-inch dimension. 6 3/4. 10 3/4. It's a 10.5 dimension. 4 3/8. The little gap on the bottom, we have a 1/2 inch dimension. There's another 3/8 here. There's a 5/8 dimension here. And I'm going to need a little more room, just a little more. If you're trying to juggle drawing and doing the math, even if this is something that you're good at, it's really easy to make a mistake. And then once you've made that mistake, it can cost you a lot of time. You gotta go back and erase and fix whatever that is. Everything's kind of connected here on this drawing. So what did I choose on this one? It was blue in the first column. I'm gonna go 5/8. That is a diameter symbol. I'm gonna keep that on here just to kind of remind myself that was the diameter, because that's kind of important. And if you remember your compass work, you know why, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. I got a 6 1/4 dimension. I haven't had that yet. You actually start to write these out, you can see where there's so many little points where you can make a mistake and why it's important to kind of get this done ahead. It's a 1 3/8 dimension. So we're just working down our fractions. We've got a 1/4. Half of my 1/4 is 1/8. 3/8, we've got 3/16. 3 inches, we've got 1.5 inches. Here, whenever I have these mixed numbers, for me personally, I like to separate them for a second, deal with the whole number, deal with the fraction, and put them back together again. So I've got 3 3/8. So I just kind of view them here and there, even if I have to get another piece of scratch paper or write it out to the side. Maybe I'll grab an extra, we'll get a little green here in case you have to do some writing to the side. 10 3/4, that is 5 3/8. You can quiz yourself on these fractions as I'm going down and kind of maybe think about what they are before I get to them and see if they're lining up or they're correct, or do you need to go back and work on that fraction work. Ten and a half, we've got 5 1/4. 4 3/8. 2. 3/16. 1/2. 1/4. 5/8. 5/16. Oh, I wrote the same one twice, so that's fine. We don't need to do that work twice. 3/4, we have a 3/8 diameter. 6 1/4, 3, and again I'm kind of just splitting them up first in my head here. Is I got half of 6 is 3, half of 1/4 is 1/8, or half of 1/4 is 1/8. Half of 2 inches is 1 inch. This one is a little bit different because when we split this 1 in half, it's going to be a fraction as well. So I'm going to take this separately. I'm going to take this 1. I'm going to split 1 inch in half, and that will of course give me a 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to split this 3/8 in half, and that will give me 3/16. So I've just split both those in half. We need to get like denominators between the two of them, and all I'm going to do here is change this over to 8/16. Still the same fraction, but now we have matching denominators here, and we're going to add our numerators up here. Is 8 plus 3, got 11/16. Okay. This is going to make my life a lot easier because now I'm totally focused on the drawing, and I can just come back to this sheet to pull my dimensions as I work, okay? And the first thing I want to do is look at this drawing, and we've done borders, and the next step on here is boxes. So I've got borders, and then we're going to get boxes. Boxes meaning I just want to figure out what the outside dimension of each of these views is. Looking at our drawing, we can see that there is a height dimension here on the left. It is 10 3/4. So that's one of our first dimensions. I've got 10 3/4 tall. And then width, I can pull from over here. It says 6 3/4. I've talked about this a few times, but this dimension right here along this edge and this dimension right here along this edge are the same dimension. Because again, we're taking an object and we're turning it to our top view and up this way. If you were to turn that object, it would actually be better if I had some kind of box, not a cylinder like this. So I am gonna get that. Okay. This box here, we can see this would be like our height on our caddy. When I turn this, go up to our top, and I have the depth of it. How deep is this object? I'm looking down from my top and I'm looking at it, and this is how deep it is. So I'm gonna kind of put my finger here so you can see when we switch back to this front view. That was that dimension we were talking about. You can't really see it from the front view anymore. You turn it up this way on its side, and you can see we're still on, my hand hasn't left right there. All my erasers are falling out, that's okay. So this edge right here, you can see how those share, they're the same exact dimension. It's just showing it from different perspectives. So I've got a 10 3/4 tall, 6 3/4 deep, and get this on my top view. I can get my width right here. The last thing I'm getting is this length. And it's often in engineering drawing that if math can be done, they're not going to give you every single dimension. You're going to have to do a little math to get to it. So if the math can be done, there's going to be less dimensions. It's like you take this dimension plus this dimension to get what you need. The reason for that being, if I put all my dimensions or I just keep rewriting things, it gets messy. I try to put as minimal amount of notes on this drawing, I guess, as I can, so that it's still pretty clean and you can look at it. So this is what I do. I'm looking for the length, which is along this edge right here. I probably wouldn't find length, and not probably, I would not find length in this side view. I could find length in the top or the front, so I'm going along this way. And if you look down the dimensions given, you're going to find a dimension that kind of gives you probably most of it. Maybe you find a dimension that gives you the whole length across, but my eyes go straight to this 10.5, which is from this inside edge to this inside edge right here. It's like most of the length except for the two little side pieces. So it's 10.5 plus whatever this is and plus whatever this is. And if I look around, I don't see any notes or dimensions for those. But if I go up here and I read these little notes are important. They've got a lot of information about the build. The very first thing I see is it says that the stock is 3/4 unless otherwise noted. So unless it says something else, unless the thickness says something else, that piece is 3/4. So whatever you see on there. Again, it's just an easier way. Instead of putting 3/4 all over the place, just telling you that, hey, everything here is 3/4 unless we say unless the drawing says otherwise. So I'm going to take my 10.5 and I'm going to add 3/4 and I'm going to add 3/4. So we've got 10.5, we got 3/4, and I got 3/4. I'm going to put this in green perhaps down here. Oh, I should change the color of that that one too. Still 11/16, just trying to make it clear about what is what. So we got a little bit of math to do. I got 10.5 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. Three-quarters and 3/4, 10.5. If you can, you could add them all up. For me personally, I like to take it piece by piece. So I would either add these two and then add that one, or I'd add these two and then add that one. Just because I know if I make a mistake here, it's going to cause me a lot of grief in the end, and I'll have to go back and erase everything. So I'm going to take 3/4 and 3/4 and add those together. So 3/4 plus 3/4 is 6/4. 3/4 plus 3/4 got 6/4. This is a proper there's nothing wrong with this fraction, but in construction maths, we don't have this larger number in the top. We're always going to work that whole number out, reduce it down to its smallest, smallest fraction it can be. So I've got 6/4, and that means I've got, if I kind of look at this, and I like to kind of draw this out, I got 2 pies here. Bottom number's telling us I got 4 slices per each pie. Top number's telling me that I've got 6 pieces of pie actually. So each pie has 4 slices. But I've got 6 slices. So I can see here that I've got one whole number, one whole piece that I can pull out. And all I'm going to do is bring that over. And I've got 1 right here. And now all I'm dealing with is this one here, which is 2/4. I'm going to write that out there. I like to go down the whole thing and just kind of get it, because it's 2/4. We do need to reduce this to its smallest terms. This is 1 and 2/4, which I'm going to reduce down to 1 and 1/2. And you can see that visually too. That's a half a pie, right? That's a half a piece right there. So 1 1/2. Let's drop this down, because we got to add that 10.5 in there now. Ten and a half plus 1 1/2. For me personally, I like to split the whole numbers and the fractions up and deal with them separately, Or if you can do the mental math here straight, just go for that. This one's not too hard. We've got 10 plus 1, 11, half plus a half. So 11 plus 1 is 12 inches. So I'm going to add this onto our list here. This is 12 inches. Half scale is 6 inches. Ten and a half plus 1 and a half, 12 inches. There's our 12. So that told us that this 10 and a half plus this 3/4 plus this 3/4, put it all together, and I've got 12 inches from end to end here. So after all that math, now we're really ready to start drawing. Now we can make boxes because I've got my 3 dimensions. I've got 10 3/4, 6 3/4, and I've got my 12 inches. One of the bigger mistakes that I see is jumping in way too fast with no plan, meaning I didn't do all of this and I'm already starting to draw everything and I'm super confused because I'm trying to do math at the same time that I'm drawing, or I've already messed up my thing. Get all of this mental math stuff, get all the math stuff done first. Then come over and make your drawing. Ten 3/4, and my chart's a little off camera here. Let me see, well, I could try to pull that in there. I've got 10 3/4, it's 5 3/8. So I'm gonna start with that first. I'm gonna make me a line at 5 3/8 of an inch. Small detail, my corner, or my tape was coming up my corner. I can't really see where the corners come together. I just need to fix that real quick. These are small things that might happen to you. Slow down to speed up. So get it done right so that you don't have to redo it. Take the time to fix up little mistakes. They will help you. So we're right here, and I'm going up 5 3/8 now. There's another instance where I'm not really happy with that mark that I made. It's a little difficult doing this with camera and having the table pop down, but we'll make it. Okay, other techniques. I'm making this line and I'm making this drawing. So this is the line we're making, the outside box, and you can see that the front and the side view share the same height. It's the same part, so it's the same height right here. I am not going to make things difficult on myself. I'm going to draw this all the way across, make a construction line, make it very light, but I'm going to do 2 things at one time. Okay, so we've drawn a line across here at that 10 3/4 mark, and we're going to get the other sides of our box done up. Between each piece here, we're going to have a 1 inch gap, or actually no, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to do the width here, which we determined was 12 inches. On the half scale, that is going to be 6 inches. So we're going to come across here 6 inches and lay that down, or put that dimension down. Make sure you got the right side of your ruler here. It's just the standard side. So I'm ticking that off at 6. So I've got a little mark here at 6. And I'm going to draw this going up all the way, but I also need a 1 inch gap between my front view and my side view. So I'm going to go ahead and put that tick mark on there too. I've ticked it at 6. I'm going to tick it again here, 1 inch over, and I'm going to draw those both at the same time. Oh, got a little mistake there. I'm just gonna go ahead and fix that. If my head gets in the way, I'll move it so you can see. I do have to kind of lean in here a little bit, get close, and find my measurements. So 6 inches, and then we have a gap, and then we have our side view. So here's our side view, and we found that was 6 3/4. And we go back to our math here that we filled out, and we've got our 6 3/4 on the half scale is 3 3/8. I'm gonna scoot that over if I can get this piece of paper up. Yep, and set this over here, 3 3/8. Works in your benefit to remember that this side and this side are the same dimension, because now I can come in here and take that. Oh, that's actually incorrect. I've got to put my 1 inch gap between my parts here. I tried to put the 3 3/8 in there to start. I'm gonna go with my 1 inch gap. I'm gonna go up 3 3/8. This line's not long enough, so I'm gonna come in here and extend that just a little bit. Go up a little bit higher. I've got to squeeze it there so I can see. There we go. I'm just finishing these out, so I'm bringing this line up and finishing off this box. The front view box is already complete, and the side view box needs to be completed, which I already have that tick mark there as well. So we're just on boxes. You can see there's a lot of work that just goes into these boxes. That's why it's important. Don't try to do too much at one time. I'm not even worried about details right now. There's no reason to be worried about details right now. Okay, front, side, and top view. Our next step is to erase. So we're going to clean up all these lines around and just get our boxes . In this particular drawing, we're not doing a cut view. We don't have to do this additional view off to the side. You would have done that for your build, but not for this one. Just to practice our drafting. Okay, what I like to do is work in this front view here and put down as many dimensions as I can and carry over as many dimensions as I can into the other views while working this front, so I don't just kind of hop around. I start in this front and fill as much in as I can, and carry over dimensions into others. So I take my 90-45 triangle, my T-square, and draw vertical and horizontal lines going into the other views. So I'm going to start with the sides, and here's our sides right here. They're 3/4 of an inch thick. We're working a half scale, so that's 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw over 3/8. I'm going to draw from here over 3/8 and make our two sides. Which you'll see in the top view, I can carry that up. I can carry it into the top view. Okay, and now I'm going to add in this 1/2 inch gap below and the 4 3/8 above that. So just working my way around, putting in as much as I can, and I'm going to add those lines very lightly into the side view as well, because they do come up later. But I'm going to put it on pretty lightly because a lot of them are going to get erased. So this 1/2 inch mark here and this 4 3/8, I'm doing the bottom and then the height of the side. So 1/2 of an inch. Make that tick mark right there. And I'm going to go up 4 3/8 from there. And the way I'm going to go about that actually is to I'm going to line up 4 7/8 down here in this corner. I mean, if you just want to measure from here 4 3/8, that's fine. I find it's good to have them both kind of lined up one after the other. It helps make it just right. And oh, I'm forgetting one thing. Oh, and I forgot two things actually. This is easy to do. Let's see if you get distracted for a second. That's why we split all these up. It's a 1/2 inch, but we're going half scale. So we need to put our 1/4 inch right here. And then it's 4 3/8 is 2 3/16. So I'm going to correct this now. If this happened in your drawing, just go back and fix it. 2 3/16. This here's 4/16, so 2. Okay. So I measured up 1/4 of an inch. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go ahead and go up to, from that 1/4 of an inch line, I'm going to go up another 2 3/16. I'm going to mark a line. And I need to get rid of that 1/2 inch line that I made incorrectly there. Again, it happens, just pay attention to your details. I'm going to very lightly pull them over into this view. I should have got this one at the same time, but I didn't. It's okay, I'm just going to line it up. Very lightly just draw it over into this view. Okay. So from here we really have this dado on the bottom, and then we have this dowel rod, which if you remember this drawing, the dowel rod is easier to draw in the side view and then to bring over. Okay, so we're going down 1/8. So I made me a tick mark right there at 1/8. And I'm going to tick mark up from 1/8. Some of you might remember the strategy of doing this little 45-degree line. If you do use it, I'm not going to do it in this video just to make it simpler. We're just going to measure and mark all over the place. So I've got that 1/8 mark, and then I've got my two outside dividers here that I'm going to draw in. All stock is 3/4 unless otherwise noted here in my notes. So this piece and this piece here are going to be 3/8 of an inch thick. So I'm going to mark that now down. And to be clear where I'm going from, it's not from the top, it's from that line I just drew down. So I went down 1/8, and then I'm going to mark here 3/8 down from that line. Next step is sometimes a little confusing for students. They don't know where to put this one right here. So this divider is in the center, down the middle of that top view. And we can do it two ways. I kind of prefer one more than the other. Is if I look at my views, I can see there's a 2-inch gap between my outside divider and my center. So this is a 2-inch gap here on both sides. So I could measure up, 2 inches, which half scale, that'd be 1 inch. And mark that down. Just to get it a little more accurate, I like to go down the middle and go to this 6 3/4 dimension and mark the center, and then mark my middle from that. So there's more than one way to get it done. I'm just going to show you the way that I prefer to get it done. So 6 3/4 here, that measurement, we're looking at our math here, 6 3/4, that is 3 3/8. But we're going to find the middle of that. So the middle of that is going to be, oh, we got a little more math to do here. And I like to split these up. I always do that with my fractions. 3, half of that is 1 1/2. And half of my 3/8 is 3/16. I'm going to convert this into 16ths. And then I'm going to add it back together again. I really prefer to show all my work with my math just because a little mistake will cost you a lot, and it's kind of better to get all these out. Especially with fractions, I feel like they're better done on paper than mental math. If you can do that, great. If you can't, don't be shy about putting it down on paper. So that's 1 and 11/16, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we've got 1 and 11/16. This is the dimension that's going to be the middle of this right here. may have to adjust some things on your table. 1, and then we have 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, and then I know I'm going to need this midline later, so I'm going to bring it over here and just go ahead and do this both at the same time. 1 inch, and then we have 8/16, 9, 10, 11. 1 and 11/16. I kind of marked that down crooked. There we go. I'm going to leave that there for now, for later. Well, for now, for later. I'm going to leave that there for later. I'm not going to mess with it right now. And I'm not really even doing that. I just marked those on both sides. Now that's my middle. So you'll remember that we have a 3/8 of an inch, 3/4 thick board. It's 3/8 in our half scale, and I'm splitting it over this center point. So I'm going to set that down. I'm going to take 3/8 on my ruler here, and I'm going to set 3/16 onto the middle. So I'm going to set 3/16 on the middle, and I'm going to mark it at 0, and I'm going to mark it at 3/8. Tick that off right there. I wish I had more time to zoom in on some of these views. I am just trying to get this done before the final so that y'all have something to look at, something to study if you need it. So I know explaining some of these things might be a little confusing, so I'm trying to do my best about explaining how they go down. I hope you're able to see in your head what I'm explaining, and from this kind of backed out view on the camera. But yeah, I had a midline here, and then I've centered 3/8 over the top of it, and now I have a middle. I have a center right there. So we're not doing too bad. You know, once you have those boxes up, it does start to move, and then once you have this up, those boxes are what's critical. So we're gonna get this now here, or whatever you're gonna get. Oh, the little dividers. So we've got the smaller dividers. They're 3 inches between each other. So I'm going to work in both ways here. It says 3 inches. Half scale means we're going 1.5 inches on either side. And then we have 3/4 panels, so we're going in another 3/8 and mark all of that. Okay. So I've marked 4 lines. That's 1.5 inches, 3/8, 1.5 inches, and 3/8. So we've got those put in pretty quickly. The next thing to do is to do the dados. So you remember these short dividers, they dado into the long dividers, and you can see here it's 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go in here 3/8 of an inch all around. So if you're kind of putting some things together here, is that we made a midline here right down the middle of that panel. That panel is 3/4. So this 3/8, that line right there would come straight to the middle of this one. Well, we already have that mark. There's a marking here for that middle. That's kind of why I like doing the middle here too. It makes it a little easier. So that 3/8, I'm gonna line my T-score back up and mark me some lines here at that 3/8. This one down here I'll have to measure. So dado's in 3/8 of an inch. I'm gonna measure down my 3/8, which on our draft is half scale. So we're going down 3/16. We're doing our half scale down and kind of connecting this all up. So I gotta find the middle of these two panels, draw some lines going across, and then pull the divider lines up to connect to them. And I'm just using some of the old lines I had there. I already had those 2 tick marks done for the middle, and see how quick that is since we already had everything finished. Now I'm just going to come down here and measure 3/16 of an inch. Okay. And I'm going to bring those out just a little bit. There you go. With the top view mostly done, and I'm just cleaning up some small lines, I'm going to zoom in here a little closer to the front and the side view. And we're going to look at this here, which seems to be pretty tricky for a lot of students, but I'm going to take you through it. It's not as hard as maybe you think it is. You just got to know your steps. We're still working on details. So we're going through. There's a lot of lines going on here, and if you try to take it all on at once, it's going to be really confusing. So let's break it up and first start with, let's get some kind of circular something going on up here, and we'll work our way kind of down on this piece. So that's where your dowel rod goes in, and you also got that little semicircle shape on top. And this is compass work, but you need to give the compass a center point, of course. It needs somewhere to stab down and somewhere to put the lead onto to swing it around. In our drawing here, it's got this 5/8 dimension, and it also has that line right down the center, which if you look back, you remember we ticked that mark. We found that center when we did it up here in the top view. It's also here, so I already had one that I just put in there to use for now. So I'm going to extend that down just a little bit, and then I'm also going to put this 5/8, and what it's telling you is not the 3/4 circle, but this semicircle here. I'll try to hold this up as much as I can. I hope that's focusing. This semicircle here is 5/8 down to the center of that, and then both circles, if you see those two circles there, they both share that same center point. So the 3/4 diameter is going to go there, and this 5/8 radius circle is going to go there. And it does you well to kind of keep up with who's who and whether you're working with radiuses or diameters. It might be smart to write some things down and say, hey, this is what this is, and that's what I'm writing down there. Or take it one step at a time. Don't rush through this part. So 5/8, we got 5/8 down. We're working in half scale, so that's going to be 5/16. So that's what I'm going to do, is just get my crosshair set up. Okay, so I got 5/16 down, got that center line, and now I have a central circle to go on to. I'm gonna go ahead and start setting up this compass and drawing this half circle here. So I'm gonna stab this down in that center point, and I'm gonna line my lead up with the top where the center line meets the top, because that's our our 5/8, which it's 5/16 and half scale portion that we're looking at here. So I'm stabbing this down. If I can kind of hold that in such a way so you can see. So now I'm just gonna go, oh, and that might do that. So we get those halves right there, or that half circle. Now we can put in that 3/4 circle. It's 3/4 diameter. That 3/4 diameter needs to go around that center point there, and we're working in half scale. So our 3/4 diameter is a 3/8 radius, and we need radius for the compass. Oh, I think I got that backwards. It's a 3 in half scale. Let me back up here. I don't want to confuse you. What I said is true. I just did it out of turn. I did the wrong step. 3/4 diameter. We're working in half scale. So in our half scale, it is a 3/8 diameter. I need to put the diameter symbol there. I need, or we both need, we need we need the center point, the radius for that circle, not the diameter. So we've got to split this in half again. That's going to be 3/16 radius. And that's going to be what I need to draw down here. So what does that mean? I'm going to go right here from the center point, and I'm going to go 3/16 and make a tick mark. So I'm going from that center point there, 3/16 out, and marking a tick mark, and that's where my lead is going to go. I'm just lining my ruler up from the crosshair and then going 1, 2, 3/16. These smaller circles, it does take a little care trying to get them marked down. They can be kind of a pain sometimes. Okay, so I've got a half circle here drawn, and I've got that 3/4 diameter circle there drawn. And that's our full scale dimension. That shows our dowel rod, that shows the top of our side. And we drew this line in here earlier, which is just the height of the divider coming across. Well, this works out in such a way that where that divider comes across is where this slope starts, and the slope ends right there where the circle is. So that sounds really complicated, but all we're saying here is get your pencil, get a ruler, and put your ruler here at this intersection. And I like to put a pencil right there too. It kind of helps as like a stopper. So I'm holding this pencil there. I'm gonna push this ruler up against it. And then I'm gonna push my ruler over until it just touches the edge of this circle right here. Like as if the circle was a real thing and it was stopping it. And once I have that, I'm gonna draw a line down. try to get this from this angle to make it clear. So one complicated part down. I'm going to take this moment to bring the dowel rod over into the front view. And I'm going to do that by lining my T-score up just on top and bottom of the circle that we drew for the dowel rod. Once I do that, I can kind of clean this up a little bit in here. Don't really need all these extra lines. That might even mean coming back and darkening that up a little bit later. So you can see it starts to come together. Taking it in little pieces at a time, it starts to come together because now we have all that done. And we've pulled this over into this view here. And I'll come back later because this is not done. We still need to show how this dips in and those dowel rods with those hidden lines goes into the sides. But just continuing on with the side view, I'm dropping down from there and I'm going to put my dividers in right here. So I'm going to draw the dividers in, which are these same 3 dividers here, here, and here. I'm going to draw them into the side view here. And we've done this already. We did this in the top view where we figured out that 1/8 of an inch, and then there was the 3/8, and then we did our gap and everything. So I'm just going to repeat that down here and work my way across. So we have the gap, and I'm going to put that 1/8 inch dimension there. You may want to back up in the video to look, if you're going, what do you mean we did this already? When we put the dividers in up here, we measured them all out, we did all the math and knocked them in there. I'm just going to draw them in here now. You may want to go back and visit that and see how that was done. We had this 1/2 inch mark from earlier, and that's coming in handy now because that's the bottom of my divider here. So there's the bottom of my divider, there it is, and there it is again. So that kind of helps me make this box. I like to think of this as like a drawing within a drawing, so it's the same steps, borders, and then now I'm making a box, so boxes. And then I'm going to erase. It's like a little mini drawing within a drawing. So kind of isolate it, don't think too much about everything else going on, just focus on this part. Now we're going to go in and side dividers, middle divider, and then I'll talk about the bottom panel. I'm going to use that center line from earlier. Now that dividers are drawn in, we're going to put in this panel. And I'm kind of thinking about the panel on all sides. So I'm not just thinking about it as just lines, but I'm thinking about it as a piece. So that and when I say panel, I'm talking about this 1/4 inch panel. It's the only piece that's a different thickness than the rest. And of course our note says, unless otherwise noted. Well, there's our note. It's a 1/4 inch thick. It's going to go into our divider right here, 3/8 of an inch. We can see that dimension there. It's a 1/4 inch wide, and there is a dimension missing here. And this is kind of, always raise your hand if you have suspicions of that. Something that I need to get fixed. But basically from that bottom, so I'm not talking about the actual, I'm not talking about the bottom of the part here, I'm talking about the bottom of this divider here. That is a 1/4 of an inch right there as well. So a 1/4 and then another 1/4 and we're working in half scale, so that's an eighth and an eighth. So we're just gonna put some rough lines in, and you're gonna see me draw this dado in here, which is for the bottom as well, at the same time. It might be a little off camera, but know that I'm gonna also do the other side of it too while I'm doing this one. So I'm kind of drawing this all at the same time. Gonna make it a lot easier for myself as well. So I'm going from this bottom here, of course getting my ruler on the right side. And I went an eighth and an eighth. And we have to look at how this goes uniquely. I mean, it goes a little bit into this panel. It doesn't go all the way to the side. It goes underneath this center one, and then it goes into this side one. So I need to draw that the same way on my drawing here. I'm just gonna put in, again, some construction lines, real light, because we need to erase in a minute. I'm going to take this opportunity to clean this one up just because there's a lot going on in that little area there. And I'm going to bring this over into my front view. That dado there goes in 3/8, that dado there goes in 3/8, that dado there goes in 3/8. So I'm gonna make a series of 3/16 tick marks to do the vertical lines going the end the panel, show the end point for it. I'm just kind of going through, taking this line by line, piece by piece. Oh, kind of need to fix a little mistake here. Okay. If we look at our drawing here, one compartment has a small divider, one does not. So we need to knock this line out. I'm now done with my center line. I can get rid of that, and everything starts to pop out at you. You can see everything here. We really have two details left, which is this little nibble at the bottom here, and then we're gonna do this drill hole for the dowel rod in the top. So in the bottom here, I have the dimension showing 1 3/8. That we already worked out on our math here. 1 3/8. Half scale is 11/16. Okay. 8, 9, 10, 11. Eight, 9, 10, 11. There's a 1/4 inch radius mark here, and that tells us that the height of that cutout there is 1/4 of an inch, because the circle is centered up around the bottom. The upper half of the circle is what's showing missing, and if the radius is 1/4, then that's 1/4 there too. 1/4, we're working in half scale. Now, do you need to mark or compass these little 1/8 inch circles out? No, there's another tool for that we don't have in class. I don't have a set yet. So for these, I just have you pencil them in. It's not proper, it's not the right way to do it. But that's the way we're doing it until we have the right tools. We're not gonna try to do it with the compass, basically, because that's a huge pain. Cleaning up, just erasing a little bit here on the sides. Oh, I'm gonna move some of this junk out of the way so you can see. And I'm also gonna get rid of, some of these lines here. I don't need those anymore. I'm not gonna go into the darkening and putting down dimension lines and all that on here, because I think that part everyone pretty much gets. It's really just the techniques, and I think especially this part tends to be really tricky. That's probably second most, and that one's kind of here or there. But I think we went over most of the important parts for your exam. Just remember, it's not going to be the same it's going to be the same drawing, but not the same dimensions. So it'll be different. So you need to know how to do your math, but as long as you know how to draw this, you know what to do. Going around cleaning up lines, top lines, bottom lines, anything not needed. And I'm just going to show how to do this on this side, and I don't need that on, I'm not going to show it on this side, but I am going to do it. You do need to do it for your drawing. So I'm going to show you that you need to put that hidden line there as well. And just a note, if you're looking at your drawing, make sure you get your dotted lines. So you do have to come back, and all these dividers here in this bottom panel that's shown inside, when you darken them up, they need to be dashed lines. They need to be hidden. Now, I am going to find into my ruler there again, mark that 3/16 over. That dowel rod runs halfway through. This panel's 3/4. Half of 3/4 is 3/8. We're working in half scale, so that's 3/16. We're almost finished with this right here. Okay. And of course that part there, I would make a hidden line as well. So that's your final, and that's your review for your final. So practice these techniques and come in prepared, and good luck.